When police finally entered the abandoned mansion on Marrow Hill Lane, they expected to find squatters or maybe the body of the missing owner. Instead, what they saw made seasoned officers go silent. Every single mirror in the house, cracked, warped, or dust-covered, reflected a different murder scene. None matched the current room they stood in. And none matched each other. The strangest part? There were no actual bodies in the house. Just the screams of the dead echoing through glass. Detective Lyle Matheson stood at the threshold of the house on Marrow Hill Lane, drenched from the relentless downpour behind him. The door, heavy and warped from age, creaked open slowly as if recognizing an old friend. The air inside was stale, cold, thick with the scent of mildew and something metallic, blood, maybe, or rust. As he stepped inside, the wooden floor groaned beneath his weight, not in protest but almost in warning. It felt as if the house was exhaling, slowly awakening from a long slumber. The first thing that struck him was the silence. Not the kind that comforts, but the kind that crushes every thought. There was no wind here, no hum of electricity, only the low, pulsing beat of his own heart. He clicked on his flashlight, sweeping it across the entrance hall. Dust floated like ash in the beam, disturbed for the first time in years. On the left wall hung a mirror, its frame ornate, Victorian, silver vines etched into black wood. But the glass was cracked in a perfect spiral, as if something had punched through from the inside. And yet, it reflected something that wasn't there. Instead of the decaying hallway behind him, the mirror showed a dimly lit bedroom, plush carpets, blue floral wallpaper, a bed with white silk sheets. In the center, a woman in a red dress thrashed violently while a dark figure pressed a pillow over her face. Her screams were silent. Her body writhed for a few seconds more, then stopped. The man in the reflection looked toward the mirror, and smiled, though no features could be seen. Lyle turned around. There was no bedroom. He waved his hand in front of the mirror. It didn't follow. The image remained stuck in that moment. He checked behind the frame. Nothing. No projectors, no lights, no screens. Just old, cold glass. He backed away, now more alert. The hallway led deeper into the house, past a winding staircase and into a narrow corridor where paintings of long-dead relatives stared blankly ahead. Every few feet, another mirror. Some were fogged over. Some shattered. Others pristine. He stopped at a tall one at the end of the corridor, nearly 7 feet high, dusty but intact. As he wiped away the grime, the surface cleared and the image sharpened into focus. A man, bald, maybe in his 40s, was being beaten with a hammer. Over and over. Blood spattered the walls in rhythmic arcs. Again, the room in the reflection didn't match anything Lyle had seen in the house so far. He knew that wallpaper. That lamp. They were from the Thompson case, the hardware store owner who'd gone missing 2 years ago. But there had never been any body. No murder weapon. Just a locked store and a trail that led nowhere. Another mirror nearby showed a girl crying as she was pushed down a spiral staircase. Lyle's stomach turned. The victim looked just like Angela Green, the college student who had vanished last spring after leaving a party on this very street. Her case had gone cold within weeks. The police had searched the town. Her family had begged on TV. No one had even thought to look here. There were too many mirrors. Too many scenes. Some silent. Some still moving like looping films, repeating the same moment of horror. One showed a woman drenched in gasoline, flicking a lighter with trembling hands. Another showed a man clawing at his own throat while an invisible force crushed his windpipe. But there were no bodies. Not a trace of blood in the real house. No signs of struggle. Just rooms cloaked in dust and memories. Lyle felt his chest tighten. This wasn't a house filled with mirrors. It was a house made of mirrors. Each one a story. Each one a death. Some old, some fresh. He stepped into the dining room, the chandelier above swaying slightly, although there was no wind. The mirror over the fireplace had a gold frame, regal, elegant, and inside it, a boy no older than 9 was locked in a closet, screaming. Lyle's mouth went dry. That was Jeremy Klein. He remembered the case. It had haunted him for years. The closet behind him in the real room was empty. The reflection, however, wouldn't stop replaying the boy's final moments. Every mirror was a tomb. And the worst part was, they seemed to be watching him back. He could feel it. That prickling along his neck. That subtle vibration in the floorboards, like the house was breathing under his feet. His flashlight flickered. Then dimmed. Then came back. The battery was new. There was no logical reason for it. He pointed it at one mirror and the image shifted as if reacting. Now, instead of a random scene, it showed something different. It showed him. Standing in the hallway. Behind him, a figure moved. He spun around, weapon drawn. Nothing. He looked back. The mirror was blank now. Dusty again, as if it had never shown anything. But the hallway was colder now. The kind of cold that sits in your lungs and doesn't leave. Lyle took a slow breath, struggling to keep his mind grounded in logic. But every step further into the house dragged him deeper into its web. He realized the mirrors weren't just showing the past. They were preparing him for something. Maybe even choosing him. And just then, from upstairs, he heard the unmistakable sound of a mirror shattering. Followed by another. Then another. The house wasn't asleep anymore. It was awake. And it was watching. The investigation was supposed to bring clarity. Instead, it only unraveled everything Lyle thought he understood. He returned to the precinct that night with photos and notes hastily scribbled from what he'd seen inside the house. The mirrors, those impossibly vivid, shifting windows into violent deaths, weren't just anomalies. They were accurate. Disturbingly accurate. One by one, he began cross-referencing the scenes he witnessed with the town's cold cases. Victims who had vanished without a trace. No bodies. No suspects. No final leads. And to his growing horror, every mirror murder he remembered had a corresponding file. He started with the hammer killing, the bald man. That was Leonard Davies. His face, though bloodied in the reflection, was still recognizable. Leonard had gone missing in 2018, left his store for lunch and never returned. He was never seen again. His family had suspected foul play, but no evidence was ever found. Yet Lyle had seen it, seen the very moment of his death play out in a cracked mirror like it was etched into the glass. Then the young girl on the stairs, Angela Green. That case had haunted the department for months. She'd gone to a party with friends. Left early. Never arrived home. No signs of struggle. Her friends thought she'd gone with someone. She hadn't. The mirror, though, showed her final moments, pushed from behind on a staircase that didn't exist in the house. Or at least not anymore. The layout had changed, or maybe the house had hidden it. Lyle's breath caught as he uncovered more files. The woman on fire was a Jane Doe found burned in a nearby alley, never identified. The boy screaming in the closet, Jeremy Klein, had vanished on Halloween night. People assumed he ran away. But he hadn't. He died. The mirror proved it. What unsettled Lyle most, though, was the pattern forming. Each of these people had some connection to that house. It wasn't always direct, but it was always there. Leonard Davies had done electrical work on the property a year before he vanished. Angela had attended a party 2 blocks away the night she disappeared and reportedly joked about breaking into the haunted house. Jeremy's school field trip had passed by the Marrow Hill estate the week before Halloween. His mother had noted that he became obsessed with the place afterward. The house wasn't just reflecting random deaths. It was targeting. Anyone who came too close, who looked too long, who stepped inside even briefly, they were marked. And once the mirror captured them, they were gone. Erased. The scenes weren't memories. They were recordings. Or worse, locks. Each reflection a prison, the victim frozen in an eternal replay of their final, helpless moments. And then came the most disturbing part. Lyle found a mirror near the end of the hallway during his second visit. It was new. He hadn't seen it before. But it was there, hanging above an old writing desk. The mirror was clean, uncracked, glowing faintly in the dim room. He stepped in front of it. It showed him. He was standing in the exact spot he was in now, but behind him, something moved. A dark blur, tall and twisted, barely visible in the flicker of light. He turned around in panic. No one was there. But in the reflection, the thing behind him stepped closer. Its hand, long, skeletal, gray as smoke, reached toward his back, and just as it touched his shoulder, the image cut out. The mirror went black. Lyle stared into it, waiting. Nothing returned. Just his own pale, shaken reflection. He left the house then. Fast. Not running, but close. For the first time in years, Lyle Matheson felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in decades. Pure, unfiltered fear. Not from some killer or gang or criminal syndicate. But from the unknown. From something that didn't follow rules. Didn't play by natural law. At home he couldn't sleep. He kept checking every mirror in his apartment. Every one of them showed normal reflections. But the sense of being watched never left him. He started covering them. Bathroom. Bedroom. Hallway. All hidden now. He dug deeper into the history of the Marrow Hill house. Records were incomplete. The original builder was a man named Edgar Venswick, a reclusive architect with a fascination for mirror mazes and optical illusions. He'd lived there with his family, wife and 3 daughters, until they all vanished in 1993. The official story was a mass disappearance. No forced entry. No signs of struggle. No signs of escape. Just gone. But local legends told of strange events. Neighbors claimed the windows changed positions, that they'd hear whispers at night, see shapes in the glass. It wasn't just the mirrors. It was the house itself. And now, the most terrifying realization came to Lyle late one night, reviewing everything again. If the mirrors recorded murders after someone came near, what did it mean that his death had already appeared? It hadn't happened. He was still alive. Still investigating. But the mirror had shown it. As if it was already decided. He wasn't looking into a crime scene. He was inside one. And the mirror had started counting him among the dead. Lyle stopped reporting to the station. He turned off his phone. He stopped answering emails. The house had infected his mind and he knew it. Yet he couldn't let go. Every night, he returned to the house on Marrow Hill Lane like a moth pulled toward the slow, dangerous glow of something ancient. He brought cameras, tape recorders, infrared sensors. None of it mattered. The devices shorted out, the batteries drained within minutes, and footage never developed. The house rejected observation like a living thing resisting dissection. He stopped caring about the rules. His obsession deepened, his world narrowed. Food became an afterthought, sleep even more so. When he did sleep, he dreamt of glass, shards in his mouth, blood down his neck, mirrors cracking open like jaws. And when he woke, he would find himself back in front of one of them, staring, waiting, trying to catch them moving again. Some did. Others seemed to go still forever, as if ashamed of being caught. The silence between reflections was worse than the scenes themselves. But then something changed. One night, while reviewing his notes, he realized something new had appeared in the large mirror in the dining room. Something that wasn't there before. A woman. Young. Late 20s. She stood with her back to the glass, breathing heavily, holding something, a flashlight. She wasn't being attacked. She was exploring. Curious. Lyle's chest tightened. He didn't recognize her. This wasn't a replay. It was a live feed. Someone was inside the house. He raced from his apartment and returned in record time. The house was still. Silent. The door hung ajar. Inside, the mirrors were all dark like sleeping eyes. Then a faint noise, a whisper, a creak. He followed it upstairs. The second floor had been avoided until now. The floorboards were rotten and the ceiling sagged dangerously. But something drew him up there that night. At the end of the corridor was a mirror unlike any he'd seen before. Tall, twisted, its frame looked melted, almost organic. Its surface shimmered like water. And reflected in it was the woman, staring at Lyle from the other side of the glass. She looked scared. Her mouth moved, words he couldn't hear. Then behind her, something shifted. A shadow. No, not a shadow, a reflection without a source. It twisted and lunged, and the glass shimmered like fire. She didn't scream. She just vanished. And her reflection stopped moving. Lyle backed away, stunned, but then caught a glimpse of another mirror to his left, one that hadn't shown anything before. It now displayed the same woman, but this time in a basement, blood pooling around her body, face frozen in terror. The house didn't need to trap her physically. It had her essence, her story, her death. And now it was writing her into the house's narrative as it had with all the others. That was when Lyle realized the deeper truth. The mirrors weren't just recording death. They were consuming people, memories, souls, entire identities. The victims weren't just killed. They were absorbed. The house had become a graveyard of echoes, a feeding machine for something beyond human comprehension. Something that lived off memory and fear. He tested a theory. He returned with a sledgehammer and tried smashing one of the mirrors. The glass exploded outward like it had been under pressure. But something bled from the frame, not blood but light. A searing blue-white pulse like a dying star. And from the wall behind it he heard something scream. It wasn't a voice. It was thousands of voices layered together, pleading and wailing and laughing at once. Lyle stumbled back, breathless. The mirror had grown back a few hours later. Not replaced. Regrown. As if the house didn't accept damage. As if it was a living organism and the mirrors were its organs. He couldn't destroy it. The house wouldn't allow it. So he did the only thing left to do. He recorded a confession. Not for a crime but for a curse. He sat in front of his laptop, hollow-eyed and shaking, and told everything he knew. He warned anyone listening to stay away, to never step foot on Marrow Hill, to never look too long into any mirror that feels wrong. And as he finished, he turned the screen slightly. In the background, barely visible, was a mirror. And in it, himself. Sitting. Staring. But his reflection wasn't moving. It wasn't blinking. It wasn't sinking. It was smiling. Lyle's final words were a whisper, "It already has me." No one has seen him since. Some say he vanished like the others. Some claim they've seen his face appear briefly in mirrors around town, gas station bathrooms, department stores, even rearview mirrors at night. Always just for a second. Always with that same tired, knowing smile. And the house. It still stands. Still silent. Still breathing. Waiting for the next curious visitor. And every mirror still holds a murder. Just waiting to happen.